I think my girlfriend is basically like tone deaf or something, because like we were playing this kind of game today where, like humming a tune for each other, and like the other one was trying to guess what it was, and every single tune she hummed was basically like I was like, Mario! It's like, no, it's not Mario, it's like Wonderwall from Oasis. I was like, oh, okay. So the next one was like, it's Mario! It's like, no, there's a light that never goes out by the Smiths. I swear to God, that girl's so tone deaf. It's like,
if she was actually deaf and blind, that would explain a lot.
That is kind of really horrible, but that literally would be the case if you were talking to a blind and deaf person. Welcome down to the abyssal lair of the radiophonic sea creatures. Scrape the barnacles off my cock, you filthy bilge rat, because I, Tokyo Choo Choo, am going to be your host today. And with me, as always, is a man who regularly trains filthy bilge rats to do unspeakable things. It's Brack. How are you doing today, Brack?
I'm not training rats, though. That's not what I'm doing right now. But I'm doing pretty good, yeah. How about you?
Oh, yeah, I'm not too bad, but I'm missing human metal, though.
There's this like empty spot in my life right now for like a really nerdy German guy who is really, really passionate about Mega Man for some reason.
Frankly, I don't have that hole in my life, but human metal seems to fit it anyway. So yeah, for the people who are wondering where human metal is, he's actually. He basically called in to say he couldn't make the recording, unfortunately, because he had to stay home and look after his mother's sick dog. I'm not kidding you. That's literally what he told us. And as we all know, if there's one thing that Human Metal's mother shouldn't do, is leave him alone with her poor, defenseless, sick dog.
Actually, I think in his mother house there are at least now 2 sick dogs. One of them is Human Metal.
So what have you been up to this week, Brack?
I've been watching a lot of movies. I actually played some video games. I finished Hotline Miami 2, which was really, really hard. Kind of frustratingly hard, actually. It's not as good as the first one. The first one is a lot better, like better level design. The second one, the levels are way too big and open, and you get killed all the time by people you can't see on the screen, which is really frustrating. But besides that, I had a pretty good time. And also the ending comes out of nowhere, like really, literally out of nowhere. I was like, I was taking a shit. I was like, oh, I'm going to play some Hotline Miami while taking a shit. I was like, oh. And then I was like, I was done. Like, not just with the shit, but also with the game. And I had no idea that was like the last level.
There's nothing worse than, sitting down on the toilet and, you're thinking, okay, now it's time to read a chapter of the book I've got. And literally, like 2 seconds later, you are done with the shit and you're still there with the book. It's like, fuck. But are you eager? You were a huge fan of the first Hotline Miami game, and really eager to play the second one. So with the fact that the second one, due to popular opinion as well, not just yours, hasn't really kind of delivered as good an experience as the first one, would you be interested in a third game?
Yeah, I think like the first one is such like a success out of nowhere, where at least it almost seems like even the creators don't even understand completely why everybody likes it so much. And I think they can probably learn a lot from like the complaints from Hotline Miami 2. But I think they should leave out the story a little bit. Like the story, and there's way too much story in Hotline Miami 2. It makes no goddamn sense, like at all. Like I'm reading the lines, I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. There are like 20 different main characters, and you switch characters all the time, and they all look the same. It's like watching the first episode of The Wire. Like you have, or like the first episode of Game of Thrones. Like 20 different characters, all out of nowhere, and you have no idea who is and what the hell. And Sean Bean is there for some reason. Like it makes no goddamn sense. But the gameplay is still solid in most levels, but I think they kind of went overboard with the level design, but I think they can probably learn really well from the complaints and make a better sequel. I think I would be interested in a sequel.
Yeah, games that suddenly end. You could do a whole episode on games that suddenly end out of nowhere. I remember feeling exactly the same way with Batman Arkham Origins. The end of that game, I was like, oh yeah, oh okay, oh this is firing up nicely. Hang on, wait, oh that's it, that's the end. Oh okay, that came out of nowhere for me. I had no inclination that was the end. It just happened, and it's like, oh, I'm finished. Okay, maybe I won't be able to get back into the city and finish off that Riddler stuff.
Yeah. I had the same with some movies. Like the latest Bourne movie, like Bourne Legacy. The only reason you know it's over is because like that Moby song starts playing in the end.
Yeah.
Like they play a Moby song like in every single Bourne movie. Like at the end, it's like, wait, I heard a Moby song. Is the movie over? It makes no sense.
And with that, we're going to move out of the shallows and into the depths. Back to the depths. So today on the depths, we're going to go basically, and we are going to talk about movie sequels. So of the good kind and the bad kind. So Brack and I have each chosen one great sequel and one bad sequel. So yeah, let's talk about that. So what do you think, Brack? Should we go for the good sequel or the bad sequel first?
Let's do the good sequel first. The bad sequel is probably more fun to talk about. So let's do the good sequel first. And you can go first this time.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, all right, sure. I'm going to go for a good sequel. Now, let's see what could I possibly go for as a good sequel. Well, yes, of course. I know what you're thinking. Game over, man. Game over. It's the Bourne Supremacy. So, I think the Bourne Supremacy for me is a sequel that did absolutely everything that could ever be done better than the original film. So I think the Bourne Identity was a pretty decent film. Yeah, it was nice. It was good, in fact. Had some really great moments. Specifically, I think at the first one has the car chase that catches everybody's attention, where he canes that Mini, and then hilariously parks it up, and him and the girl say almost nothing about it. It was hilarious. But so that film had some good kind of action sequences, but it was to be honest, it was nothing particularly special. And then of course the Bourne Supremacy just took it to a whole nother level, man. Just ripped shit up like as good as it possibly could. So that film is absolutely perfect in my opinion. So the action scenes, Paul Greengrass is like a master of that, like shaky kind of.
Yeah, he's the only guy who does it right, and also the only guy, like the first person I saw it used, at all almost, and he's the only guy who knows how to do it.
Yeah, he kind of invented that genre, didn't he? Of like that kind of handy cam kind of. And the thing is, you see that in action movies these days, and it's come so commonplace that it's kind of, like you say, it often doesn't quite work, and you can't really see what's going on so well. But somehow, specifically in the Bourne Supremacy, because I personally think that it slightly overstays its welcome in the third film.
I disagree, though. I think it works great in Bourne Ultimatum as well, which actually is my favorite Bourne movie.
Oh man, I don't get me wrong, I do like the Bourne Ultimatum too. I think it's a good film. I think that is a superior film to the first one also, but I also feel that it retreads the highlights of the second film very closely. I mean, it does do some great things. I think it has a better fight, a hand-to-hand fight scene, like the in the Bourne Ultimatum where Jason Bourne's fighting Daesh and smacking him with pretty much everything he gets hands on in that apartment. Like that's amazing, and probably a little bit better than the fight with the French guy in the Bourne Supremacy. However, the reason I would pick the Bourne Supremacy over Ultimatum is simply the emotional connection is stronger, I think. Because and spoiler alert, obviously, because we're talking in depth about films here, so spoiler alert for the Bourne Supremacy. His girlfriend dies at the beginning of the film. Shockingly, and then Jason Bourne's a badass. We all know he's badass, and then that's a badass like set loose. You know what I mean? As angry as he fucking possibly can be. Like, it's amazing that feeling, that emotion, that kind of streak of anger that runs through that film and like drives everything he does. And then at the end of the film, like in the most amazing like action sequence, like all action sequences, I think to really nail an action sequence, it needs that kind of cathartic, like, yeah, that kind of catharsis, of like of getting some trauma out through violence. I think that informs quite a lot of really great action sequences. It needs that emotional connection, and the final action sequence where he's driving around Moscow, and he ends up fighting with Karl Urban, who killed his girlfriend. That is a thunderous action set piece, man. It's perfectly filmed, it's exciting, the music is totally on point, and the way that ends with him caning Karl Urban into like an abutment in the tunnel and basically almost kind of sacrificing himself is just, I don't know, there's just some really mean emotional catharsis in that moment, especially when he, and it's so great because he gets out the vehicle after that crash and you're half expecting Karl Urban to jump out of the car and start, like ninja fighting with him or something, and it just doesn't happen. It's amazing. He's just like slumped out over his steering wheel, like bleeding to death. It's just an amazing scene. And then that's immediately followed by when he tracks down the daughter of the couple he assassinated, and then basically tells her the truth about what happened to her parents, and his kind of emotional outpouring there, like, makes you feel for that character and makes him much more than just like a rote action hero that he had been like previously, I think. So I think for the emotional connection, the badass action scenes, and just like the counter hunting, like the CIA are hunting him, but he's hunting the CIA, and those cool moments, where they're discussing, where is he, and he's literally just across the road, like looking at them for a sniper rifle. It's amazing. It's just like so many memorable things, and just a sequel that totally blew me away, and I adore that, and I watch it like regularly. It's just an amazing film. How about you, Brack? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I agree. I think Born 2 and 3 are like the best of the franchise. I prefer the third one, but it's been a long time since I've seen them. I really want to see them again. Like, I think do like a trilogy, and just forget about the fourth one.
Yeah.
And it's not even that. I don't know. I can't even put my finger on it why the fourth one is bad. It's kind of boring, I think. Kind of weirdly boring through most of the movie. Like, the action sequences weren't even that bad, and I think like the slower parts at the beginning were like interesting because you're like thinking they're still going somewhere, but at one point you figure out like they're going nowhere, and it doesn't even have a conclusion at all.
No.
Like the movie has no conclusion, no real ending, and it's like it has like a super sequel bait ending, but there's no sequel like so far, and it looks like they're not making a sequel either. So. Kind of sucks.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the fourth one sucked real bad, and it was really promising. They had Rachel Weisz in there, who's hot as shit, and they had Jeremy Renner. I mean, as far as actors who are going to replace Matt Damon go, I mean, Jeremy Renner's probably top of the list. I mean, like when you think about it. But I agree with you. There was something strangely boring and just wrong with that film. I think part of the problem was that it was like an hour and a half of almost nothing, and then a short action scene at the end. I mean, that last action scene was definitely the highlight of the film, definitely. But like, I don't know, man. It's just really
especially like when the action sequences in the you see like in the trailers, you see action sequences, and those are just from the opening training montage. It's like, that's not a good sign in general.
Yeah, no, it was a film basically where not much happened, or certainly nothing interesting happened. Yeah, so I think they kind of fucked that up. I also hate the way that they shoehorned like Matt Damon into it as well.
Oh yeah.
Like just they had this one shot of his passport or something, and it was like oh my god, it's connected to there's nothing.
Yeah. It's kind of weird. Like they didn't have Matt Damon, but they did have his passport, and they showed it like a lot.
Yeah.
They took full use of that passport in the movie.
Yeah,
and the sequences with like Edward Norton in like the control room, it almost felt like a parody of like the Bourne movies. Like the way it was handled, like they were not saying anything at all. They were just talking really fast and like using lots and lots of military terms and stuff. Like that a normal person has no idea what they're actually saying, and then after a while you figure out they're not really saying anything.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, the character of Edward Norton, I think, was a massive failure in that film, just because he just simply wasn't interesting in any way, shape, or form. I mean, at least in the Bourne Supremacy, you had like Brian Cox, being the like the covert bad guy, which was fucking awesome, and Pamela Landy, the Diane Lane or whatever her name was, was also really great in that. And the guy in the Bourne Ultimatum, like, was so smug that he was a dickhead who you wanted to see take a fall. But the guy in the Bourne Ultimatum is neither. He's just like you say, he's just a guy in a suit telling people what to do. That's it.
I like Edward Norton as an actor.
Yeah, I do too.
Of course. And I think they really they didn't use him right. Edward Norton can play an asshole really, really good. So I was hoping they made him more of a smug asshole in the movie. That would be at least entertaining, and you want to see him get his. But yeah.
Have you just completely random Edward Norton related side note? Have you seen the Wes Anderson film? What's it called? The Moonlight Kingdom.
No, I've not seen it.
Oh man, Edward Norton's so good at that, and he plays so against type in that film. You because of his general character, you expect him to be this kind of smug dickhead, like in the film, but he turns out to be the most like genuine, nicest character in the whole film, and it completely shocks you, how good he plays that. It's amazing. Yeah. So anyway, I'm done with the Bourne Supremacy. Amazing film. A fantastic sequel, better than the original in every single way. So tell us, Bragg, what's your good example of a sequel?
Yeah, don't think it's surprising to you or anybody in general. My favorite sequel is The Dark Knight. I think that would be on the top of the list of a lot of people's favorite sequel of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And
not mine.
Yeah, a lot of movies actually, they when they make a sequel, they up the stakes in every possible way. But for some reason in The Dark Knight, actually, even though it doesn't feel like it, the stakes are a lot lower than they are in Batman Begins. Because in Batman Begins, he fights for the entire city getting destroyed. But in The Dark Knight, the conflict is way lower actually. He's just the one guy who has not that many people behind him he's fighting against. But for some reason it's way more intense, especially because the Joker was extremely well played. I think everybody agrees to that Heath Ledger was amazing as the Joker. Yeah. He's so I don't know, you don't know what to expect. He's so surprising every single time that it really made it very intense. And yeah, that's the main reasons. But I think the story was a lot better, and it's also way better filmed, which is the way that movie is filmed, in my opinion, is amazing. Especially when he uses those IMAX, when Christopher Nolan uses those IMAX cameras, where it makes it super extremely clear. And it's one of the main movies I use to show off my new television. The opening heist scene in that movie is just one of my favorite heist scenes in any movie ever, because it's so tense and you don't know what to expect yet, and it's just I really like those cold opens where just the movie just opens with an action scene and you have no idea, you're not really clear yet what's going on and who the characters are, and it's they do that so well in that movie. And yeah, it's kind of hard to find any fault on that movie. But I think you're gonna try, because I know you like The Dark Knight Rises better. And yeah.
Well, yeah, okay. So yes, I do like The Dark Knight Rises. So I have some mixed feelings about The Dark Knight, but I will say straight off the bat, although I have, mixed feelings, those mixed feelings are kind of minor blemishes actually, because I love The Dark Knight. I love it. Seriously, there's no way anybody could watch that film and say that's a bad film. That's not going to happen. The Dark Knight is an excellent film, definitely. But I feel it could have been a touch better. So the best things about the film, of course, the story is fantastic. It really is. I think Christopher Nolan wrote a really fantastically psychologically interesting story, and the dialogue is excellent. Really, really fantastic. Yeah, just fucking brilliant, basically. Easily the best scripted and written out of the Batman films easily, better than the Dark Knight Rises. But I feel where the Dark Knight misses a trick is that it really doesn't have a satisfying action scene, in my opinion. I mean, ultimately, it is a Batman film. So, Batman's got to be at some point in costume, and he's got to be fighting guys, right? And using his gadgets and stuff. And when he's fighting the bad guys, in the Dark Knight, he's using kind of his martial arts, but it's kind of like there's no feeling there. You know what I mean? He's just like, oosh, 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 guy down, oosh, guy down, oosh, 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 guy down. Like there's nothing really there to like grab onto. Also, I think the best.
I disagree there, to be honest. Like, I think the action scenes in Dark Knight are really great. Like I said, the opening high scene is like one big action post. And I also really like the chase sequences. Like, there's the moment like where he flips the truck. Which, in my opinion, is a great moment. And when like the Batmobile crashes, and out of the Batmobile comes like the Batbot, like the bike, which is like a really great like action moment. Like, in my opinion, it works really well. There's also this one moment where he goes to like I think Shanghai, where he just like he glides over to the other building, and that sequence just really always like every single time when I watch it, like I get like my hairs go up like on my arm hairs go up because it's just so the way it's filmed makes it look like you're really in the moment, in the place.
Well, yeah, maybe. I don't know, those same moments that you're talking about, I don't really find them as satisfying maybe as you do. I mean, the flipping truck scene is pretty damn cool, man, and the Batbike is pretty fucking awesome. Let's not beat around the bush there. Especially, when you see that scene, when I first saw that, I thought, oh, it's a CG truck flipping over. Oh, that's fine. But actually, no shit, that's not a CG truck flipping over. That's a real fucking truck. He flipped a real fucking truck because I saw how it was made, and it was like, geez, okay. Now that's kind of reassessed my position on that scene a little bit.
And the Batmobile, getting destroyed is like a miniature Batmobile. Like, it's a small Batmobile, and you have no idea when you're watching the movie, but like it's pretty fun to see like behind the scenes of that movie because the guy doesn't like CGI that much. He doesn't even in Interstellar, like some of those parts where you think are CGI are not CGI. I mean, you like watch it later.
Damn it! Yeah, that is an awesome way to attack things. Like, I think that's the way to go. If you can, like Ridley Scott used to say before he got obsessed with CG, if you can do it real, do it real. Like, yeah. But anyway, we're getting off topic here. So I think there are some action scenes in there, but I don't think any of them are particularly satisfying to me personally. Specifically, the climax of the film, where he goes to stop the Joker in the tower block, like that scene where it's just not interesting as an action scene, and the scene where he finally gets to have fisticuffs with the Joker himself, like. And I know exactly what you're about to say. The Joker is not a physical villain; he's a psychological villain.
He's not a physical threat at all.
No,
like.
Well, try telling that to the guy with the pencil in his eye.
Yeah, but if he was a physical threat, that wouldn't make any sense in like the story-wise, because like Batman, he goes to like Asia and trains for like most of his life to be like a bad motherfucker. So if one crazy guy could just kick his ass, that would make no sense.
Yeah, I guess I get that, and I can totally see where it's coming from, and I mean, don't get me wrong, I enjoy that. I mean, there's something to be said for the scene where Batman, is locked in the cell with him. Smashing his head on the table is more exciting than when he's actually fighting him, like, in hand-to-hand combat. There's something to be said for that, for the quality of the film, but I don't know, that kind of affects the feeling of me. Also, I wish they did something more with the Scarecrow in the second film. Yeah, I feel that was a bit of a
I can also say why I like that. Because like when you have like the Scarecrow in the beginning, that scene, for some reason it makes it feel like Batman is not like there, like he's actually doing stuff in between the movies. He's like actually like fighting guys and fixing crime in between the movies. And like when you see like him fighting like catching the Scarecrow, it almost feels like, oh, this is like the last, like the climax of a previous adventure almost, like that was happening in between the movies. Where like a lot of superhero movies, almost feels like, oh, you have this one thing, and like the next thing that happens to him almost happens like 2 years later. Like nothing happens in between, like the normal movie and the sequel.
Well, I guess I never really looked at it like that, but I still think they could have done something with it with a little bit, or they could have had a better action scene. Again, they could have had a better action scene at the beginning. I mean, Batman just arrives, says something like, "I'm not wearing hockey pads," and then falls on a van and crashes it. Like, that's it for the Scarecrow. He didn't even get to use his gas. God damn it. But I think but yeah, the reason for me The Dark Knight Rises is the superior film for me personally is because I think the action scenes in that are actually pretty damn good. You know, that flying machine he has, like the Batwing type thing, like that's pretty cool. And there's some pretty great like intense action sequences where they're fighting against the clock in that. And of course, Bane is like the physical threat bad guy, and they have some pretty great fights in.
I think
in that
like.
film.
The Dark Knight Rises opens with the best action scene, and it's also the best action scene of that movie, which is one of my problems with it. Like the first action scene where they rescue like Bane from the plane, that's like so exhilarating to me. I really love that action sequence, and it's also the high point of the movie for me. Like it almost feels like its own short movie.
See, I totally disagree with that. And partly I disagree with it because you know when Bane, when the airplane shell falls away and Bane and the guy that he's holding onto are left like hanging onto the end of the cable, you can see that's a fucking rubber doll. Like I really hate that. I just once you see it, you can't unsee it. So sorry for everybody. I've just warped with that. Like you know, this is basically a balloon hanging onto the end of that tether. But anyway, but no, I disagree with you. I think the best action sequence is the last action sequence in that film, where the dual action sequence where Batman is fighting Bane in the snow in amongst the riot, and meanwhile, like they're trying to stop the car from from reaching its destination or whatever, and then the very final action sequence where Batman is like chasing it and like firing missiles at it and shit, like that's a great action sequence for me personally. So I would say the peak of the action actually came where it should at the end of that film. But I guess we'll have to agree to disagree. All right, so I guess that we're going to move on to terrible sequels. Yeah, so what Brack? You can go first this time, man. What's a terrible sequel for you?
Yeah, I have two, and one of them is like one of the I've seen more recent. But I'm going to talk about another movie first, which is the sequel. I actually saw this one first before the original. That's kind of insane. It's called Speed 2: Cruise Control. Yes, Speed 2, made by the same director as the original, by the way, which is kind of weird. And it's like, it's Speed. It's only this time it's on a boat. That's about it. That's about it. That's all I can say about it. Keanu Reeves didn't want to join this time. Makes a lot of sense. And yeah, the movie is horrible. It's just horrible. The only thing that's entertaining about it is Willem Dafoe, who plays it like way over the top, like Willem Dafoe does sometimes. And it's like his performance is pretty good. It's pretty hilarious. But outside of that, there's no reason you should ever even watch it at all.
Yeah, I mean, how can they call it Speed when the vehicle is like one of the slowest things ever? Like, they're in a huge cruise ship. I mean, when you think of Speed, a huge fucking cruise ship is not what springs to mind, is it? I don't know. There were some okay moments in Speed 2. Like the end scene where it smashed into the city was pretty fun. I mean, in a kind of Titanic kind of watch everything get destroyed kind of way. Yeah. But that was
I liked Willem Dafoe's performance in it because it's so insane, and his eyes just bulge out every time he like looks at the screen. like holy shit! Like it looks like his eyes are just gonna pop out of his skull. It's insane.
Yeah, Willem Dafoe should be in the bad guy in many more things than he is in.
Yes.
Yeah. So what was your other one?
Yeah, this is a more recent one, and it's the Boondock Saints. Do you know the Boondock Saints? Those movies?
Yeah, I know.
Oh?
Boondock Saints, yeah.
And I really like the Boondock Saints 1. And it's really, in my opinion, it's a movie that shouldn't be as funny as it is. Like, it has no right to be that good. Because also Willem Dafoe, by the way, also Willem Dafoe movies in there, and like the first one, the plot doesn't make any sense at all, and the script is kind of stupid. But for some reason, the way those characters they play together, and like the jokes and the writing is really funny, and you actually feel like a kinship between the main characters, and then all of that is almost gone in the sequel, which is not funny at all. Like, most of the jokes fall flat extremely hard. None of the action works. It's all kind of boring and just kind of usual stuff, like nothing creative. And the main characters, they just look and feel like they're tired all the time. Like, especially Sean Preddick Fennery, for some reason, he just looks like he had too much Botox in like the last 10 years. And he just looks like he's tired. Like he's almost every single scene, he's like on the point of falling asleep. No, not a good movie.
Oh man, to be honest, I have literally only seen the sequel. I've only seen number 2. I haven't seen the first one, and I sort of enjoyed the second one a little. I mean, I thought Billy Connolly was quite fun in it. But I don't know. Is the first one like significantly better? Like you say, I should probably get around and watch that.
Yeah, I think the first one is like one of the. It's like came out in a time period where everybody tried to mimic Quentin Tarantino, like after Pulp Fiction, and I think this is like one of the best of those kind of movies.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I'll have to.
And I really like actually like Quentin Tarantino, like Pulp Fiction ripoffs. Like those movies are really funny most of the time. Like that dialogue, like most directors don't know how to even mimic that dialogue in general. And I think this one came pretty close, at least for the dialogue it does. Like the plot is kind of stupid, but the dialogue is really clever and really fast and really funny.
That's cool. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. I mean, it's got, I guess the original Boondocks Saints has quite a good reputation as well. So, and I guess films like that get a sequel must be doing something right. So I'm going to go straight for the jugular. I'm going to go straight for the worst sequel ever made. Maybe, possibly even the worst film ever made. Certainly one of them, definitely. And that would be Highlander 2. So, like, I'm not joking. If you the original Highlander is a piece of 80s cheese, but it's kind of got like a kind of classic type of cheesiness to it. I mean, it's got Sean Connery who's amazing, and it's a fun ride and has many memorable scenes. Yeah, so it's just a really fun piece of 80s cheese. And for those of you that don't know, it's about the Highlanders are people who like they live forever. They're like immortals basically, and they can only die by cutting each other's heads off or getting decapitated in some way. So these people are all connected in some way. So when they find each other and they fight and one cuts off the other one's head, they experience this thing called the quickening, where I think they receive his memories or his power or something, and they become significantly more powerful with each person that they decapitate. So basically, these guys spend their whole time like hunting each other down throughout the histories over the course of like 1,000 years or something in the Highlander movie. So it's got some fun, and it feels like a bargain basement version of the Terminator at times, the original film. Mm-hmm. Okay, so how do you make a sequel to that?
Add Mike Ironside. Oh.
Yeah, yes, that's always a plus.
That's always a plus.
Adding Michael Ironside to anything can never be bad, but yeah. But basically, anyway, so you shift it like, I don't know, 1,000 years into the future, several thousand years. You make it post-apocalyptic, and you enforce like all this. Suddenly, you decide that you want to make suddenly the Chronicles of Riddick or something like that out of Highlander. Which was at the very base idea was a stupid idea in the first place, and then suddenly you want to make it like the Chronicles of Riddick and build this whole giant sci-fi universe around it. And
that's actually what the Chronicles of Riddick also did. Like he didn't make the same mistake.
Yes, but I have to say, the Chronicles of Riddick is a guilty pleasure of mine. I love the Chronicles of Riddick, but I definitely don't love Highlander 2. And like, Chronicles of Riddick is really weird. That's one of those films, like, I know it's a shitty film, but I like it anyway. Because it just has...
They literally made it in, like, Space Conan, which I kind of liked.
Yeah.
Like, they turned him, like, from this, like, kind of badass, they turned him into Space Conan.
I think that's pretty much exactly what they did. Yeah, I like that. That had like it had enough geeky, like hardcore geeky stuff to make it good. Yeah, good fun viewing. The only problem with that film, the significant problem, is like it feels like the film finishes when it's half over. Like it really feels like there should be another part, like to that film, like where he fights back to get aboard the ship, and instead of just somehow appearing there. Anyway, but the Chronicles of Riddick aside, yeah. So Highlander 2, they have this huge shield thing over this post-apocalyptic world and stuff that protects the ozone layer, and you've got dudes who can fly with jetpacks, and it's hard to explain, but there's everything that could be wrong about that movie is wrong. I mean, it's just when you think of post-apocalyptic media and stuff, you have this image of this grey, brown, kind of really drab world. Man, Highlander 2 takes that to a whole nother level. It's just a film full of barren rocks. There's literally no other scenery in that film except for barren rocks. Like, I swear to God, it's just the most tedious fucking thing ever made, and just badly directed, and makes literally no sense, like the plot line at all. It's just terrible in every possible way. So there you go. Awful.
Does it have a fun Queen soundtrack, or is it also not there?
No, I think that was also stripped away as well. I think anybody of any worth would have nothing to do with this apart from Michael Ironside and Jeremy, what's his name, Christopher Lambert. And it's debatable whether they are.
I don't even know for sure if people think Christopher Lambert is a good actor or not. I actually only know him mostly from like Mortal Kombat. That's about it.
Yeah. And in Mortal Kombat, basically speaking, he was just playing the Highlander guy again. But hey, that's our opinion on movie sequels. But what's your opinion, oh valued listener? Feel free to squeeze one off in the comment section, just like you squeeze one off after a questionable curry. And with that, we've actually come to the end of this week's Visit the Ocean Floor. Please join us next time a filthy bilge rat dances so hard on his little chopstick stilts that he creates nuclear fusion and decimates an entire city block. Until then, this is the Radiophonic Sea Creatures tuning out.